About 8 years ago, I graduated from Stanford with an undergrad degree, a bachelor's in psychology. And about 2 years after that, I started my dream PhD program at Berkeley in clinical science. I really had achieved everything that I had dreamed of and that I thought would make me happy. It was a lot of hard work, a lot of late nights, just a lot of striving, a lot of pushing. And yet when I had arrived at this destination, this step along the path, I had never felt more misaligned and more lost. And fast forward to now, I am not in academia. And in fact, I am not doing anything that anyone would consider prestigious. I work as a nanny, and I have never been more at peace in my whole life. I feel a sense of meaning in what I do. I no longer feel this sense of endless striving and pushing and not being enough and just needing to get to this next submission, to this next milestone, to finally be enough, to finally actualize. I feel at peace exactly where I am. My life may not look like much to anyone else. And for the first time, it doesn't matter at all. Like, I don't care. And it feels so freeing. Like, I feel like I've cracked something. I feel like I've found some cheat code in life because, yeah, I'm not working some high-powered corporate job or moving up the academic ladder and collecting accolades. And yeah, I'm not even like making lots of money, I make enough to live and to save a little bit, and I'm grateful for that. And yet, despite not being in alignment with what society says is the correct way or the good life or a life well lived, I feel more at peace than I ever have in my whole life. So if you feel like something in your life is just not clicking, it's just not feeling in alignment, it's just not feeling true to you, let this serve as permission to let go and take a leap into the unknown and trust the universe to build a net for you. I feel like that's one of the big lessons for me in this process of leaving academia. It was my first time that I didn't have a plan. Like, I'm one of those people where like everything is very thought out and planned, and I've always spent my whole life on a path. There's always been a path where one step leads to the next. It's very linear. I can like map it out many years into the future. I know where I'm going, and it's just a matter of executing the plan and getting there, and then everything will be fine. And leaving my PhD, which I did actually leave twice, so I'll get back to that in a minute. Leaving my PhD for good was the first time that I didn't have a plan. I just knew it was so clear that what I was doing was just not right. Like, the program was just not a good fit. I didn't even really like academia that much. I just didn't get out of bed excited to do research. It just was not, it was not the right choice. And I didn't know what I was going to do next. I didn't know exactly how I was going to make a living. I just knew that this was not it. And yet here I am, and it feels sort of miraculous for me because, again, this was the first time that I've ever jumped into the unknown truly and just trusted the universe to build a net. And it did. And I did. I in collaboration with the universe, built a net. And so I feel like that's one lesson. Leap and the universe will build a net. This is a quote that I stole, by the way, from Alice Walker. I think that's her name. What's that book called? I'll just put the details up on the screen. But I was working through, I had started to work through that workbook at the time that I was considering leaving my PhD. And that quote has really just like lived in my head ever since I read that. And it's true. It was something that like I felt that it was probably true, but it was hard to trust. And now that I'm here, a couple years later, it's like, yeah, okay, the universe has a plan, and we don't always know what it is or how it's going to unfold, but there's a lot of freedom in trusting it, and things do work out. They work out. So leap and the universe will build a net. And then the other lesson is that your life does not have to be interpretable to anyone but you. Like, we live in a social fabric where we're often talking about ourselves in terms of our work, in terms of what we produce, in terms of our passions. And it is okay if your passion doesn't make money. And it's okay if your life path has been anything but linear, loop-de-loops, snaking through life, not A, B to C, but that's okay. That's okay. Your life does not have to be interpretable to anyone but you. When you go to bed, you are with yourself and no one else. And the most important thing is that you feel at peace when you lay your head on the pillow at night. And if no one else understands your choices or understands why you started something or stopped something, that's okay. They don't have to understand as long as you understand. And I feel like that for me was really kind of when the dam broke. Because, so going back to having left my PhD twice. So I started my PhD in 2020 during the pandemic. And in retrospect, it was obvious that like it wasn't working out, not because we were remote. That's what I told myself at the time. It's like, oh, well, it's fully remote. That's not how I thought things were going to be. Like, maybe it's just kind of not working right now because I'm just doing the whole program from home and on Zoom all the time. And that's, yeah, like looking at a screen totally sucks. Like, for sure that is, I'm sure that was part of it. But I mean, I came back. So I left. So I did the first year, 2020 into 2021. And I was like, oh, this is really not feeling right. I'm just not feeling like aligned. I'm not feeling well. I'm not feeling whole. So I'm going to take a leave. And I took a leave and I came back, I don't know, I think like 2 years later. It's a little hard to remember. And I was like, I'm going to fully commit to this. I left, I came back. I'm like the prodigal grad student. That was like a big thing for me in the back of my head. It was like, well, I can't quit now. Got to stick with it, because what's everyone going to say? What's everyone going to think? I've really got to make this work. And I stuck with it. I powered through for another year, and I just remember feeling so exhausted through that time. And yes, it's partly because grad school itself is just really hard, like PhDs, especially clinical. You're seeing clients, doing research, doing classes, teaching, like you're doing a lot. It's a lot. But there was something more than that. I mean, even just being on this whole academic path, it was not something that originated within me. I remember taking a health psychology class in undergrad, and the TA was like, hey, you seem to be doing well in the class. Why don't you be my research assistant? And I had never like thought of doing research before. It wasn't something that I was like, you know what? Yeah, like I'm really into research actually. Like I liked reading papers. Like, I love psychology even still now. Like I find the research interesting to learn about, but as far as executing it, doing it myself, running studies, designing studies, it was never something that I was super passionate about. But I was like, this is cool. Like, sure, I'll check it out. I'll see what it's like to be an RA. And at that point, I had just kind of gotten swept up in the current. There's very much a sort of like escalator to academia where, you start off as an RA in undergrad, and then maybe when you graduate, you work in a lab as an RA or work as a lab manager. And there's like this whole kind of path laid out to then the PhD, to then, trying to get a professorship or postdoc if you can't do that, and then professorship. There's like this whole escalator. And, I was young, I was impressionable, and I was just not at a place where I felt I had a strong sense of this is for sure what I'm doing. I think I was like, it'd be cool to be a therapist. Like, I want to practice. And that was kind of my loose idea when I was pursuing psychology. I didn't know if it was going to be social work or what. But yeah, I mean, that first RA research assistant position really changed everything, because I got so swept up into that ladder. And I was in a place like the Stanford psychology department is very research focused. And so there weren't a lot of people who had explored the practice route or become therapists. There were a lot of clinical psychologists, but they were researchers. And so there was also just kind of a cultural environment where I really felt like, okay, the right thing to do is research. Like, if I'm going to be a serious psychologist, I need to be a researcher. And so that's what kind of kicked it all off. And then it's amazing how just the currents of life will take you somewhere if you're not super intentional. And yeah, I eventually found myself in a PhD at Berkeley, a clinical PhD at Berkeley. And I felt a lot of internal pressure, because I think it's one of the top programs in the world. And I felt like, well, if I'm here, I need to be grateful for this opportunity and maximize it, do the best that I can. And it just, every day just felt like a slog. It just felt like a slog. And I remember looking around and being like, I just don't feel like other people around me are experiencing the same thing. I was surrounded by people who really loved it. And I really felt that contrast. I just was like, this is not the right fit. I was not the only person, but most people were really seemed very into their research, and I liked practicing. I liked seeing, I had a client and I liked that work, but everything else just felt like I just had to get through it. And that's no way to live. It's just not sustainable. I realized at the tail end of my second go around in that program, and when I was transitioning out, that I don't want to have to recover from my life. I want my life to feel like recovery. If I'm having to slog through every day, something is not right. And so despite my fears of looking like an absolute fool for starting a PhD, leaving it, starting it again, and leaving it, I was just like, you know what? I got to bite the bullet. I can't live like this. This is not sustainable. I was looking down 3 or 4 more years. I think 4 more years. Yeah, I was looking down the barrel of 4 more years of this intense slog, and I just couldn't imagine doing that to myself. And so I bit the bullet. I left and didn't know what I was going to do next. I was in DC that summer, kind of randomly. My partner was doing a fellowship with the federal government. And when we got back to home, which is the Bay Area, I was like, okay, well, got to figure out how to make money. And one skill that I have that I do enjoy is childcare. I love children. I've worked in a nursery school context, worked as a nanny. I live in a neighborhood with lots of children, so I will try that out and see how it goes. And that's kind of just been what I've been doing. It's kind of transformed from this is what I'll do to kind of survive until I figure things out to, wait a minute, this could actually be my work. This is actually a valid line of work. There's been this whole process of deprogramming, nannying is not a real career, or, this idea that people think oh, well, you went to Stanford, you were at Berkeley, all these things, what's your real career going to be, or what are you going to do next? What serious, impressive thing are you doing next? And like, I don't actually have to have an answer to that. And being a nanny is perfectly serious. It's real. It feels important. I feel incredibly lucky to be trusted by families to support their children's development. I can fold in my psychology background. I'm off a screen, which is really nice. Like, I'm not like coding, in R, or like looking at spreadsheets, or emails even. Like, I get to go outside. I get to be present with a child. I have to like pinch myself sometimes that this is actually my work. It like doesn't feel like work. It doesn't feel like a job. And it's actually enough. Like, I can be a nanny full stop. I don't have to be a nanny like, oh, for now while I'm training to do something different, or oh, for now while I like teach myself how to code or something so I can be an engineer. Like, like, I am a nanny full stop. And back to the universe building a net, it's so amazing how now that I'm in alignment with meaning, in alignment with a sense of purpose and a sense of ease, how things flow. Like, I am incredibly lucky that I have not had to look for work in like over a year at this point. At this point, it's like families reach out to me, they refer me. Sometimes I'm even at the playground with a child and a parent will approach me and ask me if I have availability. Like, things are flowing with such ease, and I feel this sense of abundance and lightness. And it's just such a far cry from where I was a couple of years ago, like slogging through that PhD. And it's funny because like, when I was doing that, and people would ask, what do you do? Like, blah, blah, blah. How do you spend your time? Like, that would get such a big reaction. Like, oh, wow. Like, you're doing a PhD at Berkeley. Oh, wow. Oh my gosh. And like, now when I say I'm a nanny, people with children are like, oh, that's really nice. Like, but like, people are just like, oh, okay, all right, oh, cool. And it's funny. Like, I used to like put so much emphasis on what other people thought of me. And it's like, wait a minute, like, what about what I feel about my own life? Like, that is ultimately what matters so much more. Like, who cares if people think that what I'm doing is impressive if I'm like effing miserable? You know what I mean? Like, if I like can barely get out of bed in the morning and I'm like restless and tense all the time, like, that's what matters. Like, how do I feel inside? How do you feel inside? Like, there's just so much pressure to live a life that looks a certain way. And I do feel like there's also like, the economic pressure. And just a quick note on that, like, speaking of abundance, like, yeah, I am not some like high powered, I mean, even as a therapist, I'd be making a lot more money, if I had stuck with my PhD and instead of going on to be a professor, just gone on to practice therapy like I was thinking I would. Sure, I'd be making a lot more money. But like, there's also something really beautiful about like living with less. Like, I've actually found a lot of freedom in like living on a budget and realizing how much joy I can find outside of material possessions and how little I actually need to feel whole and happy and well. And just how much like emotional energy gets sort of like siphoned off into like consumption behavior. Like, in our society, we like buy things when we feel happy, we buy things when we're celebrating, we buy things when we feel sad. It's like purchasing and consumer behavior is like this proxy for like engaging with our interiority and like engaging with our emotions. And it's really nice to feel freed from that, in part by necessity, because I can't just like buy things when I feel anything. But yeah, I mean, it's at this point, like, even, as I am able to make more money, either by taking on more hours or just, increasing my rate with experience and taking classes and like rounding myself out. as a nanny, I just don't feel the need to spend more. Like, I feel happy with what I have. I feel happy meeting my basic needs. I feel very grateful that I can do that. And that's enough. And joy for me comes from the present moment, comes from being here now. And that's the case for you too. You have everything you need. You have everything you need within you. And the present moment is enough. And so I hope that this provides some hope if you're feeling misaligned, that there is a way out. The universe has a plan for you. You can move away from what's not working, and that will move you towards alignment. And you may not know what that path is going to look like, but it will unfold. It's really about trusting the process of life to unfold. And again, I also want to say, like, I don't want to like discard everything that comes before. Like, I do feel like a lot of important lessons came from struggling through that PhD, like came from, like, I needed all of those steps. I needed all of those steps up to this point to arrive here. So even if you are feeling misaligned, like, there are important lessons in that you are learning. And so it's important to reflect on those too. Like, don't just like discard and be like, okay, well, I've been a software engineer for 15 years and I've actually hated it the whole time and I'm just going to throw that away and do something new. Like, definitely, yes, do something new. But there's also value in the experience that you've had. So leap in the universe will build a net. Trust that. There is freedom in trusting that. And your life does not have to be interpretable to anyone but you. If you want to leave software engineering and become a visual artist or write for a living or take care of children, it doesn't matter if that looks like a completely random pivot to everybody else, as long as it feels right for you and makes sense to you. So let me be an advocate for you for the prestige to ease pipeline, because it's a beautiful one and you deserve to be happy.